Okay, moving on. I want to introduce Helen Simpson and Andre Post from the Ministry for Primary Industries. Helen is a geospatial manager at the Ministry for Primary Industries and has worked 15 years in GIS. Prior to working in the government, Helen worked in local government in various roles, mostly recently team leader at Hawke's Bay Regional Council. Andre Post is the manager of information and insights at the ministry, and Andre has been the geospatial professional there since the early 90s. You and I have a lot in common. Working in local government, the private sector, and then in central government. He now manages the wider data and information team at the ministry, and I'd like to both welcome you to the stage. Thank you very much. And I will hand it over to you. Let me get out of the way.
Kia ora koutou. I'm Helen Simpson, Geospatial Manager at the Ministry for Primary Industries. And with me today is my boss, Andre Post, and Andre is the Data and Information Manager also at the Ministry. So, today our presentation is about introducing the geospatial operating model at MPI. And it also is to showcase how geospatial solutions are being used to support its vision at MPI that New Zealand will be the world's most sustainable provider of high-value food, primary products. So, our user stories will cover managing applications under the Emissions Trading Scheme and monitoring of commercial fishing. I'd like to hand it over to Andre to provide some background about the ministry and how the geospatial team, my team, supports the ministry.
Thank you, Helen. You might think of MPI, when you come into the country, you meet our four-legged colleagues or the two-legged ones as well that check your luggage, things like that. But we actually have quite a wide thing from, monitoring, regulating, agriculture, fisheries, food safety, and so on, and actually also later on actually certifying the food that actually gets exported overseas. So you have quite a wide remit. So I just want to touch a little bit on how we actually organize MPI to do that. Next slide, please. So we are organized in a number of business units. So for instance, the agriculture investment units, we have Biosecurity New Zealand, which is one of the largest business units actually, Fisheries New Zealand, New Zealand Food Safety, and the Forestry team. And that actually is supported by Public Affairs, Policy and Trade, to actually manage our trade overseas. There's about $56 billion worth of primary products traded overseas. And Corporate Services. And Corporate Services is actually where we sit. So we actually manage the central GIS team that actually provides the platform. We provide the self-service capability for the rest of the ministry so that they can do their work. We've got about a couple of thousand users of GIS across the ministry, give or take a few. The largest group is actually biosecurity in terms of use. We've got probably about 1,000 users there, primarily mobile dashboards. These are actually people that probably don't call themselves geospatial users. They actually go out in the field, they check farms, they check orchards, they might do inspections, things like that. We've got a few geospatial professionals in that team. The largest team after that is actually compliance. Again, most of those people, they don't see themselves as GIS professionals. They're compliance officers. They check whether you actually stay within the limit when you go fishing and things like that. And then we have quite a large team in Te Rako, New Zealand Forestry, actually quite a few people actually here. They actually predominantly power users, so we've got 100 or so power users there. ArcGIS, ProUse, things like that. So they actually more the geospatial professionals, but the use of mobile applications is increasing there as well, so I expect to see that use going up there as well. And then we are in the center, actually quite a small team comparatively for that, but we actually provide a self-service capability for the rest of the business. We just now want to show a couple of use cases, and I'm going to hand over to Helen to actually talk first about the Emissions Trading Scheme.
Thanks, Andre. Okay, so as Andre introduced, one of our business units is Te Urako, and that's the New Zealand Forestry Service. Te Urako works to promote and grow the New Zealand forestry sector and ensures the sustainability of the sector as well. One of its major priorities is the Emissions Trading Scheme, or ETS. The ETS is the government's primary tool for reducing greenhouse gas emissions and meeting domestic and international climate change commitments under the Climate Change Response Act. Te Urako's role is to administer the forestry component of ETS. This is an incredibly complex task and involves being highly adaptive to new legislative changes and also being prepared to handle the increase in application numbers due to increases in carbon price. So with this, Te Urako has introduced a way of processing the applications, and this solution is called Tupuaki, and this is a solution, a customised solution. Tupuaki translating to tupu, to grow, and aki in a upward direction, so quite aptly translated there. Tupuaki is quite revolutionary as it is built on Salesforce and ArcGIS. With this, it's actually made it easy for staff to work with the data from land information and also manage the interactions between staff participants and that land management information. So with that, it also includes interactions with the geospatial history of that interaction. So that includes the geospatial history of land when it is registered, it's sold, part sold and harvested. It also gives the operations team the ability to track and monitor and manage those interactions and processes in the back end. And then it ensures that timeframes are also met. So this is just a presentation of what the tool looks like when the user enters the Tupuaki solution. The solution has multiple aspects of Salesforce, and that provides a public entry point for participants. It includes integration with the government's identity management platform called Realme, and seamless authentication with the ArcGIS platform. Salesforce further provides case, workflow and textual management of information to participants. ArcGIS has been tightly integrated into Salesforce and to allow participants to access their records in a geospatial manner. This makes use of the ArcGIS development APIs powered by the ArcGIS Enterprise. When lodging a new application, participants can use rich spatial tools and supporting business logic to create new spatial data. Then using real-time form and topological validation before being seamlessly handed back to Salesforce to complete their transactions. The seamless integration and the user experience provided by Salesforce and ArcGIS, along with the complex tools and workflows, is a world first. As mentioned, it did win an award over at San Diego. Tupuaki is basically fit for purpose and is flexible to adapt to future change. Tupuaki requires less effort to deliver services and enables accurate and timely service delivery. It also improves on user experience. In turn, it increases participation in the ETS. Again, New Zealand punching its weight punching it above its weight with this solution. I'd like to hand it over to Andre, who will talk about our final user story, which is fisheries.
Yeah, so what I want to talk about is how do we actually protect our fisheries, and more important, how do we protect our fisheries for the future as well to actually make it sustainable or keep it sustainable. We have one of the most sustainable fisheries in the world, and we want to keep it that way and we want to make it even better. So how do we manage that sustainability? How do we collect verifiable, identifiable information so that we can actually act on that? How do we increase confidence for the domestic customer? Also internationally, there's a growing demand for actually knowing where the fish comes from, where those products come from, and actually knowing that they're sustainable. It's important for our trade. Some countries have actually regulations that stipulate that we need to know exactly where it comes from, and so on. Future-proof our fisheries, in terms of monitoring. And also it's a health and safety thing as well, because a lot of those fishing vessels, we actually have observers on board, our staff. We need to make sure that we keep them safe as well, and not just them as well, the fleet itself as well. So next slide. So how do we do that? So we have an integrated electronic reporting and monitoring system. It's actually made up of 3 core components. So the first one, which was implemented quite a while ago, global positioning reporting. And that was implemented around 2017. We actually started this whole process around 2016 with actually legislative and consultation to make sure that we could actually legally do all this. Global positioning reporting actually shows us where the boats are at any one time. The second component, also already implemented now, catch and effort reporting, and that actually replaced our paper-based systems, where actually fishers came into port, and then a few weeks later they handed in the forms, and it took usually a couple of months actually to get to know this information. Now this is actually entered on board, and actually as soon as they're in reach of internet and things like that, we get that information. And the last one, which we're actually in the process of implementing now, the first cameras are already on boat, and I'll show that later on as well, is on-vessel cameras, so actually looking on board what is actually happening. The key thing here is actually these 3 systems are interlinked. So next slide. So actually, we know where the vessel is, we know what they say they're catching, and actually if we suspect something is not quite right, we can actually have a look on board as well through those cameras. It's actually quite crucial. And we actually have used information coming through that system, actually is an important part to actually prosecute for fishing in protected areas as well. And I can say that the fines there is a little bit more than your average parking ticket as well. So that system is in use now. Next one. So a little bit more detail about the global positioning recording system. So you can see where each vessel goes, we can see the speed, we can see actually what they're doing a little bit. The colors also show whether we have an observer on board or not, or whether it's actually moving or standing still. Next one. And also fisheries, they're actually managed by what we call quota management areas. So quota management areas, the fisher actually buys quota, the amount of fish they can catch in a certain area, and then we can actually see through the system whether they catch that quota, whether they reach the limit, whether they actually catch the quota in the area that they have a quota for, things like that, and we use that to manage our fish stocks as well. So it gives us great insights as well for the future to actually manage to make, whether we need to increase or lower quotas and things like that as well. Next one. And the last, or one of the last ones that I want to show you, these squarey areas. They're actually the areas where we have at the moment implemented cameras on vessels, and these are protected areas for dolphins. Hector and Maui dolphins, there's not that many left. They're actually, endangered. So these are actually areas where we actually have implemented the cameras first, so that we can actually see if something happens. So in the future, what we're thinking of is actually implementing AI as well to actually detect anomalies. In early stages of that, just seeing what is possible. So we might see an anomaly. Is that a dolphin caught? Is that an albatross caught or something like that? Or activity happening somewhere where it shouldn't be happening? And then that will always be verified by a human, but that's sort of some of the future thoughts we have. When you look at that picture, you might think, oh, that looks nice, but it's also an invasive species. It's Caulepa. It's an invasive seaweed. It's actually, creates quite a dense mat, suffocating the native stuff, sort of things. And what we're actually looking at is actually using these systems to actually see what the vessel movements are in those areas and see whether that has any effect or not. Again, these are sort of ideas for the future. We don't really sure how we're going to do that, but these are some of the ideas that we're working on with these systems. So we believe that both the systems that Helen talked about, the emissions trading scheme, and these systems actually make a real difference in how we actually can manage these things and create sustainability. And I always think that if you do things and it actually doesn't make a difference in the real world, why are you doing this? So it's actually quite important and quite cool that we actually are doing things that actually really make an impact and actually make a change. And that's why we love our work. And that was it. And we love to talk to you as well, so come and talk to us. And thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. We're almost out of time, but the way that you've integrated into other systems seems to really be having an impact. So can you talk a little bit about how the users like using it within those systems?
A little bit. The thing is that we're actually not the users of the system, so we're just the managers, right? So we just, but particularly the geospatial system actually, if you actually go into that system, you can actually drill down and actually get the catch reports. So you can select a boat, you can actually see what's the name, what's the registrations of the boat, who's the skipper, what have they caught, and actually if there's something that you want to then know further, then you can actually go to the cameras on boat to actually see what actually really happens. And it's that triangle that they link together and that you can actually cross-check. That is the key thing of the success of that system.
That's great. Well, thank you very much.